purpose. ITA. Innovate. Enable.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to CNBC TV18's Export-Import Forum, part of International Trade Awards presented by State Bank of India. The Indian exporter is consistently faced with a host of challenges, be it a weakening rupee, shrinking markets of Europe and the US, or high interest rates. There's an urgent need for Indian exporters to enhance their competitiveness and increase their share in the global trade. India has come a long way, but there are lots of grounds that need to be covered as far as the export sector is concerned. On that note, without further ado, let me introduce our keynote speaker for the evening, Mr. A.B. Ravi, Editor, Special Projects, CNBC TV18.
Good evening, everybody. Sat Sri Akal. Everybody loves a success story, and Ludhiana has produced one too many. Brij Mohanlal Munjal, Sunil Bharti Mittal, Keshav Mahindra, Rajendra Gupta, film star Dharmendra, Sahir Ludhiana lyricist, B.R. Chopra director, to name a few. All these people have had their origins, all linked with Ludhiana. This is the only city, according to the World Bank report, which has the best business environment. No wonder it is the largest export hub. I doff my hat to the exporters here, who in spite of all the odds have done the country proud, but touching new highs year after year. And they have put India on the world map. We at CNBC TV18 have always felt a strong need to felicitate the growing tribe of exporters who are our unofficial brand ambassadors. As a tribute to them, CNBC TV18 has partnered with State Bank of India to host the 5th edition of the International Trade Award this year. This award will be given to exporters for their outstanding and consistent performance across several categories. Through these ground events and editorial shows, we at CNBC TV18 hope to play a catalyst role and espouse the cause of exporters. We do hope that Indian exporters get all the support from the government and they can touch the $500 billion mark in 3 to 4 years. We are happy to partner Made in India exporters. We wish them all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ravi. To deliver the welcome address is Mr. Ashwini Bhatia, General Manager, Network 1, State Bank of India, Chandigarh Circle.
Exports and manufacturing are so important for economic development. No wonder that we are hosting this in Ludhiana. Ludhiana is the hub, the center of manufacturing here. You have auto parts, tractor parts, apparels, hosiery. Talk of North India, you have machine tools, hand tools. In Haryana, you have agri products, home furnishings. Chandigarh area, you have a lot of pharma and FMCG goods. State Bank of India is delighted to be part of this forum. Over the last years, we have seen exports growing. Haryana accounted for 59,000 crores in 2013-14. Punjab by about 26,000 crores. State Bank of India has been at the forefront of credit, international banking in this area for the last 50 years. We provide you support through our treasury products, PCFC, EBR, investments in CPs, investment in NCDs, hedging products. We are there for the smallest customer and we are there for the largest customer. I wish that all the deliberations that you have over here are fruitful. And I would also like to compliment CNBC, our media partners here, and wish you all the very best. Thank you so much.
Next, please welcome Mr. J. Pakrasamy, Chief General Manager, Mid Corporate Group 2, State Bank of India, Corporate Center, Mumbai, for his keynote speech.
Good evening to you all, ladies and gentlemen. State Bank of India is delighted to host the 5th edition of International Trade Awards events. I do believe that this forum would enable exchange of experience, knowledge, and best practices among us. Also, this would also provide an opportunity to voice our wish list. Our main objective in holding this event is to aid in promotion of international trade in terms of exchange of ideas and to discuss ways forward and get some ideas as how to go about it. We feel it's very relevant in the current context of global uncertainties in commodities, markets and currencies. And at the same time, it's also an opportune time as the rising opportunities for India with our Prime Minister's Make in India theme. State Bank of India, as you all aware, is the largest bank in India with more than 15,869 branches domestically, and we have more than 119 foreign offices and branches in 36 countries across all time zones. We have always been at the forefront of supporting the industries across all sectors in all sizes, from the tiniest to the largest. SBI has been always favorably disposed towards export, even though export credit is not separately included as part of our priority sector advances. In the area of export sectors, as you all know, apart from handling your documents and export realizations, we provide need-based financial support by way of export finance, both for pre-shipment and post-shipments at highly competitive rates. We offer full-scale forex services both domestically and across the globe at best and exchange and transparent rates, providing credit in foreign currency by way of PCFC, EBR at fine rates despite not having a low-cost foreign currency base with us. At times, our rates are even below than our cost of funds. So, though the financial cost of documents handling and currency conversion in India is quite comparable to such cost in developed economies, the general rates, interest rates in India have always been traditionally higher for various reasons. And we are aware that for exporters in particular, this can be one of the constraints in being competitive. In my view, the ease of doing business that includes infrastructure, policies, clear and simple policies, and stability of such policies and rules, a focused, a long-term client-centric approach and development of skills, and the supportive policies and enablers from government would go a long way in helping our exports grow exponentially in the coming terms. Not take any more of your time, and will conclude by reiterating that we, State Bank of India, have always been and shall remain committed to supporting our country's exports in every possible way. Thank you.
Well, the theme is, how can Indian exporters become globally competitive? Last 3 consecutive months, the export figures are not looking healthy. It is down 15% in Feb, down 11% in Jan. And we have this target of $340 billion to be met by March, which means we have to grow in March alone 10 to 12%. Also, there seems to be a secular fall. Petroleum goods has fallen by 20%, engineering goods has fallen, pharma has fallen, gems and jewelry. The only bright spot seems to be textiles, garments, which has gone up by 8.3%. Given the situation, what do Indian exporters want? What is the scenario for Indian exporter to go forward?
Actually, at the moment, the Europe is totally very bad. There is hardly any chance of picking up the market in Europe for another 6 months. Russia is already, there is hardly any chance for another 1 year. The new market the exporters should explore is the African markets and the Latin American markets. They are 2 very good markets. That's the only way the exporters can improve their exports.
So, Mr. Boga, you think 2015 is a make or break year for the government, for the exporters, for the Indian industry?
It is going to be. My only humble suggestion is that we should not follow China in mass export. We should go in for the value addition items in future. Until and unless we add value to our product, it is no use and we will not increase our export. This is my feeling.
So, quick response from the banker. What is the general story you are hearing from the exporters?
Most of the time the bankers talk, the customers talk to us bankers is generally based on the pricing, the charges, the interest rates that is there. And in today's situation, availability is not an issue both in rupee as well as a foreign currency. But the other 2 factors, they say. But apart from the financial cost, they also talk about the global impacts on the currency volatility or the markets or the commodities. In my view, in the long run, as long as you are open to the global competition, any of the production factors are going to be up and down, one time or other time. And some places, some markets would be better. Some places, sometimes the markets would be not so good. That's something you cannot avoid it, because such globalization hurts even the Indian industry, not the export interest, in that manner. If tomorrow the Russia's ruble is weak, the steel industry gets affected in India. So the exporters in the long run have to become a cost competitives. How you become a cost competitives in terms of the looking at your processes and innovativeness. The short term, definitely the government, everybody else has to give the supports necessary for the exporters, because they are also competing with certain markets where there are better advantages. And the selection of products and selection of markets would go a long way to tide over the problems in the short term.
Okay, now this side is full industry side. So let me get Mr. Jain, Vardhaman Textiles. You heard the banker and you heard the banker saying exporters have to be competitive. But in what I asked my first question, coupled with that, I want your reaction to that.
See, I will never look at exports as a separate item. I look at making industry more competitive. And if industry is more competitive, automatically Indian businessman has the enthusiasm and the enterprise to go out and export if the prices are better.
True.
And to make industry competitive, we look at the factors of competitiveness. Land. India has amongst the most expensive lands in the world. 2, cost of capital.
Land acquisition also
has made it even more difficult for larger factories to come in. Cost of capital amongst the highest in the country, in the world. Labor cost is high relative to the state of development of our country. China,
availability also the issue.
Yeah, but China GDP per head is 4 times India's, but wages are double India's. So the Indian government is raising minimum wages. So, and labor laws have to be worked on.
So that's stifling the growth.
And infrastructure. So all things, so a lot of it has to be done by the government. There's also stuff that Indian entrepreneurs have to do more. Focus more on quality rather than chalta hai attitude. So there's stuff entrepreneurs also must do. But there are lots of stuff that the government can do, and the last, of course, the currency.
Okay.
My sense is there are 2-3 things which are very, very important and critical for all of us to take cognizance of, both from the institutional, the government side, as well as from the industry side, as Sachin said a little while ago. Look, exports of commodity, there's just no way you can take on a behemoth like China. No way we can forget about that. Whoever tries, it's to their doom. Look at a differentiated, value-added export, which we do in pharmaceuticals. Why is it today that our share in the global pharmaceutical market is as high as $40 billion? We control 40% of the generic market in the United States. Why do we do that? Because we have gone in for something that China has never been able to do, and that is to go into formulations, not to go into bulk pharma. It's just an example. So similarly, I'm sure, amongst all the industries, you could pick and choose, differentiate yourself, and stand out there in spite of the basic, fundamental, withdrawal symptoms that we have in terms of infrastructure, the cost of capital, and very many other input factors. So that being the case, I'll just wind up by saying that, look, we are no different than Africa. We are no different than a few other evolving and developing countries. With US doing well, with Europe going into deep recession, Japan beginning to be back with their Prime Minister economics not working properly, I think it's the right time to pick, choose, value add, move forwards, and push the government, work through CII, of which I'm a member in Chandigarh as well. So is Mr. Pogel, and various other agencies, to make sure that we continue to stimulate the government to walk the talk. If that combination is done, I think we are on our way.
I'm just getting to 2 specific industries. We got rice export and we got pharma. So when I look at Mr. Sugani and Mr. Gupta, India's 70% of exports goes to Iran and Saudi Arabia. I believe Iran has banned Indian rice, and Iraq has imposed 40% duty. So where will the growth come from? And I'm also told your price realization is coming down.
Since this ban happened, prices have come down by 40%. If you see, the ban has given a very bad effect on the industry. Last year, if you compare with the data, with the last year, it was around 1.4 million tons export happened to Iran. As compared to this year, because the data of March has still not have come, it's up to the February, it is around 0.9 million metric
Well,
ton.
yes, metric ton. In terms of value, how much it would be?
It has reduced by 40%. It has reduced by value in terms of value and quantum as well.
So what is the way forward, Mr. Sogani?
What we've really seen is that Iran, this is not a ban really. Iran imports of basmati rice is a regular issue. Whenever their crop comes in, they have a temporary, kind of a ban for import licenses, and it has been happening for several years. What we have seen this year as well is that our large customers, in general, they have import licenses in hand and they are importing. So the business is going on to a very large extent. We also believe that the import will, import ban or whatever import license ban is in place at this point of time will be shortly removed as well. So there is some impact, but I guess the larger impact really is because the crop this year was significantly larger than last year.
So more and more you are coming under cultivation now?
Obviously, the last year...
So the more the cultivation, but if you have two big countries not picking your product, where do you go from there?
So let me just come to it. I think last year the basmati rice industry saw significantly good prices. The prices went up to maybe 70,000 rupees a ton or even beyond that 80,000 rupees a ton. And that made a lot of farmers shift from other crop to basmati rice.
Okay.
And this year we are seeing about 25 to 20 to 25% more crop happening in basmati. That's the real issue. So Iran consumption of basmati rice is not likely to be very significantly different from what it was last year.
Let me get it the currency part, especially the textile exports. Currency has been very volatile, especially the euro. I was told entire textile sector has gone into a spin, especially the Tirupur. It has gone from 85 to 75 to 64 or 65. Okay, how are you going to? At one level, the prices are falling. The markets are looking weak, global market. So where will the growth come from the export sector, especially the textiles? And how are you managing the currency fluctuation?
See, there are two parts, the textile industry and the apparel industry. So the textile industry is not as badly affected by the euro because normally the invoicing is done in dollars terms.
Exactly.
So
North base may not be affected.
So the textile industry is not as badly affected. But our customers, the apparel industry,
they are affected.
They are getting affected because Europe is definitely an important market. And if Europe, so both the currency has dropped as well as the market itself is not doing well. So if the market is not doing well, definitely the exports to Europe would get affected. So the only way we must focus on is very simple, bite the bullet, focus on change the labor laws. Why should a small country like Bangladesh take the exports to $25 billion and talk of 30 and talk of $50 billion of apparel? When India is struggling at $15, $16 billion, when India has all the advantages of much bigger labor, full textile availability, the customers want to come to India. No customer really wants to go to Bangladesh. They are forced to go there because the costs are much cheaper. And labor flexibility, you can think of one factory having 10,000, 20,000 workers. In India, can anybody sitting out here, I'm sure many of you are having export, can anybody think of having one factory with more than 1,000 workers? You can't. So, and this is something people don't like to talk about because a large industry which has a voice with the government doesn't face this as a problem. If you ask Vardhaman, is Vardhaman having a problem? Vardhaman doesn't have this as a problem. But many garment export, which is why Vardhaman is not in the garment business. So, if garments becomes a stronger business and every country in the world has grown on garments.
What kind of advice would you give here? Because it's given everyone to hedge and things like that. But I've apparently told when it comes to Tirupur textiles, they have not hedged vis-a-vis the euro thing. So, as a banker, when you look at a portfolio and you look at the whole, across the gamut of industry, what is the sense you are getting?
Even the best currency expert has not been able to correctly predict what the currency would go or this
Nobody
way or that
can
way.
predict. Nobody.
Our advice would anybody is that, say, especially if you go for the euro, there are fundamental issues of the euro, 27 countries with different policies, different cultures, clinging together and making a currency, that there are issues. If one guy does somewhere else, it hits somebody else. If everybody comes out, it affects everybody and us also. In our view is always is that please don't look at a little bit extra cost, hedge to a large extent. At least hedge 50% of yours, so when you take a hit, you are prepared for it.
A lot of suggestions coming here from the experts here. And that's all the time, gentlemen. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Mr. Ravi. Thank you very much, panelists. Moving on, SBI would now like to honor the people who have excelled in the field of import and exports and felicitate them for their achievements.
focus. ITA. Innovate. Enable.